For having me. I'm excited to be back.
Me too. So, for those of you who don't remember, Maria Ross was on, gosh, I guess in the fall to talk about her book, The Empathy Edge. So, Maria, with everything that's going on right now, why don't you kind of catch us up on empathy and business, particularly during a crisis like we're in now?
Yeah, it's really funny that it kind of took a pandemic for my book topic to take off, and that's not what I would have wished for. But it is very heartening to see business leaders and companies at the forefront of talking about compassion, empathy, community. I've never seen anything like it in the commercial for-profit world, and it's really heartening to see that that is how leaders are leading right now, and they know that it's important to just, quite frankly, to do the right thing, but they know it's important to their brand. It's important to their long-term success, not just survival, but thriving in the long term. Because I will tell you, from what I'm seeing out there, the brands that show up right now, the entrepreneurs that show up right now are going to be remembered. And we have to fight the urge, if we have it, to sort of turtle away until this all blows over, because that's actually not working well for brands at all. In fact, I was on a webinar, I attended a webinar last week that was put on by a variety of different groups, but there was a study that was cited that DoSomething.org did, and they spun this up in April about asking young people what they thought about brands' responses to the crisis. And millennials, Gen Z, all of them are talking about the fact that they dislike certain brands right now because of their response to the crisis. They like the brands that are caring more about their employees and their customers and putting out communications about that. So we're going to start to see spending patterns follow this mindset of, there's people watching, I guess is what I'm saying. And so we really need to make sure that if you've got a brand, your brand needs to be showing up for your customers and for your community right now.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a really good time to listen and show up with empathy,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not just our brands who are suffering and going through
Mm-hmm.
shifts. It's also our customers and potentially their customers if you work in the B2B sect. I mean, everybody is feeling it. So
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you're a brand strategist and knowing that something really big is going on and empathy helps, how can brands start to shift, or what kind of shifts would you like to see?
Well, I think number one is that people need to get in the right mindset right now. Whether you are in charge of a marketing department, whether you're a solo entrepreneur, wherever you fall on that, is you need to continue to think about growth. So even though this is going on, even though many businesses are suffering, even though people are kind of shut away inside their houses right now and shelter in place, you still got to stay connected so that you know what's going on and what people need. So it's taking that growth mindset of, where is the opportunity for me to serve, or for my company to serve right now, given what we do and what we're good at, not just like performing random philanthropic acts. But I heard this great thing of like using your mission as a compass. For look at your mission and then figure out how you can help right now based on your mission. So if your mission is to empower small business owners, how can you have a growth mindset right now and help them where they are? If your mission is to deliver fantastic accounting solutions or something like that, what can you do for where your customers are right now? And it helps you avoid this whole, well, there's 900 different things I could be doing, to really focus your efforts. And so continuing to think about growth. I know a lot of business people, myself included, that are using this time of, I hate to say slow down, because for many of us with kids at home, things have not slowed down, they've increased. But this opportunity of this pause to put some effort back into our own businesses. So I'm looking at things on the back end of my business and how I can improve them. I know people who are now finally taking a look at their brand story and their messaging and going, I've been meaning to update my website for the last few months, but I've been too busy. So that's what I mean by a growth mindset, is that there's things that you can be doing and actions you can be taking to improve your business and to help your brand show up, so that when things spring back, you'll be in a stronger position.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Like, I think this is in my space in digital marketing. This is the perfect time if you are experiencing some sort of pause or slowdown to take care of all of those nagging things that you haven't had time for, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
process or your website or you haven't done Google My Business yet,
Yeah,
or in your case, like telling your story. Like you
right.
have that mental space right now if you can um reset your mindset to be like emotionally present to tell your story.
For sure. And I think also around that growth mindset, it's like exactly what you said. It's looking at that list of maybe marketing to-dos or business to-dos that you haven't had time for and going, okay, now I can spend some time. But with the mindset that things are going to get better. And
Yeah.
the reality is people are still spending. I'm still spending money on my business to improve things. I know businesses are still spending money because they have to. So to put yourself in this box of like, no one's buying, I can't be selling to people right now, da, da, da. It's like that's a very limiting mindset right now,
Right.
and really you could be adding tremendous value to people that need what you have to offer.
Absolutely. And selling isn't icky right now. It's
Yeah.
only icky if you've let all your automations go and everything sounds the same as it did 2 or 3 months ago.
Yes, and that's one of my sort of like practical tips is make sure you're going through your content and your content's not tone deaf. So if you've had scheduled posts, if you had scheduled blogs going out, make sure you're taking a look at that and nothing's going to like rub people the wrong way if they read it. And you can also sort of put the lens of what we're going through now and adapt your content. As an example, I had 2 blog posts for the month of April that I did, and they were about connecting and networking and how to collaborate. And so what I did was I wrote them more with a lens of, well, how do you collaborate during a crisis? How do you collaborate when you can't see people face to face?
Mhm.
Should you be collaborating if the world's falling down around you right now? And my point is, yes, collaboration is the key to survival right now. So I just massaged the content a little bit to be relevant to what people care about right now without being like yet another piece about surviving the COVID crisis as a business type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Everything I'm talking about on the podcast right now and everywhere is not about surviving. It's about finding those spaces to thrive. And I know that that's a
Exactly.
really big part of it. So knowing that a lot of businesses are having to not only weather a storm, but also begin to shift and pivot,
Hmm.
how do you think a business needs to go about that?
Well, I think oddly enough, because of the empathy book coming out that came out, I think it really is about empathy. And I've always stressed this to my clients to put together your ideal customer profiles, right? You need to know who these people are as human beings, what they care about, what they value, what they fear, what they despise, what is their personality like, as much detail as you can. Now's the time to look at those profiles and ask yourself, okay, given that ideal client, or customer, what are they actually going through right now given the current situation? So I'm advising people to sit down and make a list of 10 to 20 things that are true for their ideal customer persona or avatar or whatever you want to call it. um, you know are they worried about losing their job? Are they concerned about revenue? Are they concerned about personal health and safety? Are they now homeschooling kids at home while they're trying to work? Are they worried about their employees or their subcontractors, et cetera, et cetera? What are those things that are true for them in this present moment? And once you have that list of 10 to 20 things, now you can start to think of content and offerings that would be beneficial for them, that would help them through. So maybe those things won't be true forever of your ideal client, but that's where they are right now. So put that empathy hat on and really think about where they are right now and what they care about. Because for example, if you sell B2B, people are being asked more than ever to show ROI. They're being asked more than ever to find revenue wherever they can find it. And if you're a business that can help that ideal client with that specific problem, you can pivot your messaging and pivot your offerings a little bit to say, we'll talk about my stuff I usually offer later, but I've kind of spun up this little offering based on what I do that can help you right now. And I had this really interesting conversation, Jen, with 2 folks I know in corporate. And they were talking about what's going on for their sales teams right now. So this is like enterprise sales teams. And one of them was saying, in our company, we're just going in with a very like, hey, we're here to support you. What do you need? Here's some ideas. Let's have a talk. Let's figure out how we can help you through this time. A very, very supportive, very reassuring, very like non-aggressive sale. Now is not the time for an aggressive sale full of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. The other marketing leader was interesting. They said, well, for our customers, what they need is they actually need a prescription. They are like deer in headlights right now, and they need us to tell them what to do. So we are actually going in going, okay, right, we're going to have this meeting. We're going to do these 4 things, and we're going to go. Very different sales approaches, but both based on empathy for their customers, which is what I loved so much about. There's no right answer, but you have to know your customers really well and know what they need.
So what do you say if somebody doesn't know what their customers need? What do you think they should do?
Well, I love what you said. Now is a time for listening. So if you have not done the work of really gathering the information and gathering the feedback about your ideal customers, now's a great time to reach out to people of, I'm not trying to sell to you, but tell me what's going on for you. Tell me what you need right now. Putting out polls, convening online gatherings where you can gather some of that data, doing some one-to-one Zoom or Skype calls with those folks, and really trying to comb social media and comb the content that's out there and say, well, what are people talking about right now? What's trending on Twitter based on my field or my industry? And start to do some active listening, even if it's like an hour a day, something like that, where you can start to glean that. But I really think talking to your customers and your prospects, however you quote unquote talk to them, whether that's through email, whether that's through podcast, whether that's through video, trying to gather, invite as much feedback right now as you possibly can, and be analyzing that to say, well, what are the trends I'm hearing? How are people feeling? Not just what do they need, but how are they feeling? What's their frame of mind? Putting all that together in your head to analyze, okay, what would be the best solution to offer people right now?
Yeah, and the way I've put it on in other times is like when the market contracts, our minds have to expand. Like this isn't a time, yeah, we cannot just do things the way that we've always done it because we're going to come up against so much resistance and failure. But if we do listen, it's an opportunity for us to have some lights go off in our own heads and in our own businesses and really offer something that frankly could become like a signature something program or product or service that leads you down a path in the long run that maybe if you aren't really familiar with asking people what they want, if you do it now, you might really be onto something. And that's the exciting part about change and the exciting part about pivoting. It doesn't have to be a really fearful, scary process. It can also be something that just brings you a lot of joy because you might learn that people need something that you really like to deliver that you just never thought that people needed or wanted.
Absolutely. And I think that's, I love your thing about when things seem to be contracting, your mind needs to be expanding. It's finding that opportunity to, we always talk about reinvention and innovation, but now you have the opportunity to do it. You have the opportunity to pivot and adapt, but also understanding, and this is where my empathy practice is coming into play lately, is that there's industries and there's people that are very slow to adapt, right? And we know this, like intellectually we know this, but we are running into it on a daily basis. I mean, I see the teachers at my son's school struggling to figure out how to use Zoom, for example. And for me, it's like been a part of my business for years. And I'm like, oh, that's right. There's people in the world that don't operate this way. People that are freaking out because they're working at home. I've worked from home since 2008. I work, in tech, people work from home and remotely all the time. They're used to not being face-to-face. They're used to sharing files electronically. And so it's really interesting. And I'm talking about not just small resource-strapped companies, but I'm seeing like larger, bigger brands that I'm like, I can't believe they still do business this way. And they're going to be forced to change. I mean, it's going to, it's sort of like, I have this image in my mind of somebody with their heels dug into the ground and someone's pushing them from behind. And it's like, we're going. So it's appreciating that.
Absolutely. And I will say that, they'll either go or they
Right.
won't. I mean,
Right.
we've seen examples like the newspaper industry, the music industry, the taxi industry,
Yeah.
for example, where, these disruptions occur.
Right.
And, I think now we're seeing it in the retail industry. Like
Mm-hmm.
today, J. Crew filed for bankruptcy, or they think they will.
Uh-huh.
It's been coming for a long time.
Right.
These things have been happening. And then now, unfortunately, it's like happening even bigger all at once, and it's really
Yes.
forcing people's hands. And there are some people in the either individuals or large corporations that are just not positioning themselves, or maybe haven't for a long time, to be able to do this. And so now it's like, well, can you do it, and can you do it fast?
Yeah, I think the speed thing is huge, because that's really what this calls for. Like, time is of the essence right now. There's no more of this, like, let's put together a 6-month strategic plan about how we're going to adapt. Like, you need to do it yesterday. And I
Yes.
think that's what we're seeing, is that there's been all this talk in the business world for so long about agility and moving fast and innovation. And these big companies make really great marketing campaigns and ad campaigns around, the speed of change and da-da-da. But now they're being tested, and it'll be interesting to see in the shakeout who rises to the top. But I think it's about being able to pivot and be agile very quickly. And that means not that you just throw crap out there, but done is better than perfect. And
Right.
we can't be like taking 6 months to develop a new online course, or taking, 4 months to figure out the marketing plan for this. I mean, things are going to be so different. And I think anyone who's clinging to the fact that things are going to go back to the way they used to be are going to be in for a really rude awakening, because I
Mhm.
don't think they ever will. And coming, probably as coming from someone who, again, who's worked from home, worked remotely, is used to all these things. I hit that learning curve already, and now all these people are being pushed through that learning curve at like warp speed, and and a lot of them are falling in love with it. While
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are having trouble absorbing it, I know another person I talked to who, even though she works in an industry where people work from home all the time, her job was not really a work from home job before, and she was saying, like, I'm never going back into the office 5 days a week ever again. She's like, I'm actually starting projects and finishing them because I'm not getting interrupted and I can focus. She's like, it is refreshing. Like, she's like, I will never go back to working the way that I used to work. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
That's amazing. And given the cost it is to rent a building, rent offices, why would we ever go back
Mm-hmm.
to not having at least some remote working?
Exactly.
And I've heard a lot of people say, I'm going to take a pause
Uh-huh.
and come back when everything's normal again. And I'm
Right.
like, honey pie, this train is moving so fast. I don't know.
Oh, you're so cute. Yeah.
I don't
Um,
I don't know what's going to happen to you, So I
yeah.
do worry. I understand that some businesses do need to pause. And I mean, certainly
Yes.
hospitality, restaurants, there's
Of
certain
course.
certain industries, and then there are other ones that maybe already had an online component that I'm
Mm-hmm.
just amazed that they're kind of sitting it out. I'm seeing it, and
Yeah.
that's what's so I fear for them.
I do too. And that's why, one of the things I also talk about in terms of how to pivot and thrive is look at your offerings, look at what you do for your customers, or what you could do for your customers, and ask yourself, what of this can be done virtually? What of this can I deliver without having to be in the same room? And it's interesting. That's a good time to get perspective from people maybe outside your industry,
Hmm.
to look at it, because sometimes they can immediately spot. I mean, I know when I look at someone else's business and I'll be like, oh, why don't you just offer that in an online series and just do it via Zoom calls, for example? And they're like, oh, I never thought of that, because you're so close to it, right? And it's like, well,
Hmm.
we've always done it this way. And, what I'm seeing at the rapid pace as a speaker is how quickly the event planning industry has had to pivot to
Yeah.
virtual summits. And to be fair, it's exhausting. Like, there's many an article that have been written about Zoom fatigue and how it's a real thing, because when we're interacting with somebody on a video screen, we have to be a little bit more on than we usually do. And there's not the normal cues that human beings get. So your brain's working a little harder. So,
Yeah.
like when my 6-year-old says, like, I need a break from Zoom. Like, it's a thing, right?
Wow.
So yeah, but I think that if you look at the opportunities of like actually looking at your offerings and looking at what you do for customers and saying what parts of this can be delivered virtually. And then if there's a part that absolutely positively cannot, like a hotel, we can't stay in the hotel virtually, but a lot of them are finding some creative ways to adapt. And so that's actually been really cool too. As I'm sure you've seen, it's been really interesting to see the creativity, especially of a lot of small businesses that you would think. I mean, there was a local wine shop here in Pacifica, California, that within a week or two had online e-commerce on their website. They had never planned to have e-commerce. They were experiential. You go into the wine shop, you talk to the owners, you taste. Like they spun it up and they were like, and free delivery within 25 miles. And they're making a killing right now. Yeah, I mean, maybe because it's wine, but yeah.
I was going to say because it's wine.
Because it's wine. But I mean, there wasn't like oh, that's going to take us 3 months to put online shopping on our website.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not beautiful. It's not like the best customer interface you've ever seen, but it works. I ordered, my wine came, like.
I'm so surprised.
Yeah.
I tested it. I was their beta tester.
I was a beta tester. But I love that creativity, and I've seen some really creative content marketing from some regional cafes, like very clear of like, hey, we're going to keep our brand voice. We're not going to be like doomsdayers like on an email to our customers. We're going to keep our same quirky brand voice. And by the way, we're going to tell you 5 things you can do to help us stay in business. And they made it super easy. Like, oh my God, yeah, I'm doing that. I want you guys, like, thanks for making it clear, because I didn't know how to help you. And now you just told me and you were very clear about it. Other small businesses doing GoFundMe for their, with their clients or customers, people that cannot deliver anything like beauty services or anything like that. So it's been exciting to see the creativity.
And what about the people? Because let's talk about content and shifting your brand story, right? Like, what about the people who are like, but I've always told my story this way, and they get like that horrible like writer's block or cramping up about it? Like, because I know that you've met people like that. I mean, we all have, and I think we've all experienced it at some point. Like, so how do you even begin to like pivot your story? I mean, to me, I just put stuff out there, and if it's a little imperfect, I'm very quick to be like, oh, okay.
Well, that didn't
whatever.
work. Yeah.
But I create more content than a lot of people. So there's always the next thing for me.
Right.
And maybe for some other people there's not. So what do you recommend for people who are a little worried about maybe shifting their story at this point, or the content?
I think there's an important distinction between needing to pivot your brand and needing to pivot your message. So the Trojan horse of this, when I tell people like you need to pivot and adapt your brand, you kind of don't need to pivot and adapt your brand, because it's your core and your essence. It's still who you are. Like that regional cafe chain I was telling you about, they're not going to change their brand voice or their story of what they believe and how they got started. That should be broad enough that it shouldn't apply to like only times when there's not a pandemic going around. Like it should be really who they are and why they do what they do and who they serve. That maybe doesn't need to change, but it's the messaging around what you do. So like I said, if you're talking about your content, what can you talk about that's relevant to where your customers are right now, given what you do? So I'm, for example, I'm a brand strategist. I'm still out there talking about supporting small businesses and brand story and core messaging and all of that, understanding your customers, but I'm talking about it in a different context. Now I have to educate myself. And this is the other part of what's going on right now, is like taking that time to work on your business and also focus on development for what you're doing. So now I'm looking at, okay, well, what are other people doing, and what do we need to be talking about in our content? And then you have to make that more of like a wrapper around what you offer, so that it shows up a little bit differently in the world, but people still know it's you. And so I think what happens is people freak out that they have to change like their whole brand. And then of course there's the whole, like, I've got to change my logo. I've got to change it. Like, no. Your brand is still who you are, and it's the core and essence of who you are, but your messaging has to adapt right now. It can't be tone deaf.
I love that. It's so much easier.
It is.
See, everyone, you can just take a little sigh of relief now. Do you see
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
It's
You don't
just
have to change everything. You don't have to adapt everything. Yeah.
so what's another thing that people can do to pivot their business? I know you've got like so many strategies over there, and we really want to help people take action.
Yeah, I think that we've actually talked about quite a bit of them, which is the number one of showing up. So continue your cadence on the value that you're delivering to the world, whether you're blogging or vlogging or podcasting or whatever, newslettering, whatever you're doing, emailing. Continue to show up and just, reach out to past clients, prospects, people in your community. Remember that they're humans, and sort of like, how are you? What can I do? So continue to show up. We talked about adapting your mission. I'm sorry, not adapting your brand voice and mission, but adapting your content and your messaging around what you offer. And then we kind of touched on this, but spinning up a new offering. So the whole thing about like, what can you offer that's virtual, and what can you offer that you can deliver remotely? Some questions you can ask yourself as a business owner or a marketer to tease out what those things could be is, number one, what can you offer to immediately address one of the needs you outlined in your ideal client exercise I gave people earlier, which was writing the 10 or 20 things that are true for your ideal client right now. Can you easily package up a workshop, digital product, or even a membership group to address those needs that your customers still have? What can you deliver virtually if you're used to doing live interaction? And what virtual offerings do you have that you can amp up promotion for? Maybe you never thought of them as virtual offerings, but if you offer free consults or coaching calls or whatever, guess what? Those are virtual offerings. So it's like, now's the time to amp that up and be like, hey, it doesn't matter that we can't meet for coffee. Like, we can do this over the phone. We can do this over Zoom. And then also pairing that with, are your people interested? So, floating it past, piloting some things. And then what is needed to make it happen? Do I need money? Do I need outside support? Do I need a designer? Do I need an audio technician? Do I need, what are the pieces, the ingredients that I need for this recipe to make it happen? And again, done is better than perfect. So, and then, like I said, not being afraid to sell right now, but sell in a way that shows you are not tone deaf. So it's not time for overly aggressive sales pushes. If that was your jam before, that's not ever been my jam, but, or yours,
Yeah, it's not mine.
You can still offer value. So meeting people where they are. So a lot, like we talked about, a lot of them are taking time to reset, to handle things in their life and their business. How can you speak to that right now? And continue your outbound efforts. Don't be afraid to reach out if you were prospecting before and you were reaching out. I would also add this one, because I think this was an important one, especially for women business owners, is don't feel guilty. So what we've seen is we've seen a backlash of, unfortunately, I've seen mostly women business owners going, I'm going to offer you my stuff for free because everyone's freaking out right now. Everyone's broke. No one's getting a paycheck. No, here's all my stuff for free. And if you're doing that from a place of strength and you also have other revenue coming in, awesome. If that's what you want to do for your community outreach, but you also don't have to devalue what you can give to people and what you can give to other businesses, because again, they still have budget. They're still spending. And so it's that, resist the urge to offer it all for free. If you want to offer discounts, I've seen some great things where people are saying, here's the price, but if you have a specific financial situation, let's talk. And we might be able to do a pay what you can or something like that. But it's at least setting the expectation that you are expecting some sort of payment for the value that you're offering, because cost might not be the issue that's stopping them from getting something from you right now. So to just assume that they are in dire financial straits and are going to be kicked out of their house tomorrow is probably might not be true for them. So don't sell yourself short and devalue. Continue to sell, continue to offer value, offer discounts where appropriate or where you really feel called to do it. Like, I know for example, I know a sales coach who has a paid membership group,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's for 30 or 60 days. She's offering free access to it to help people that need help selling right now.
Right.
So she's not devaluing her service. She's saying, like, I'm going to give you free access for a limited time. And who knows, like, if those people find value and they're able to get revenue using the techniques that she's teaching, they might become longer term members of her group. But it's that initial gut urge of like, no one has money, I've got to give it away all for free because I feel so guilty charging people. It's like, businesses still need to do business, because the stronger and healthier your business, the more you can help your community. And I know that sounds like trite, but it's true.
It's
Like,
totally true.
you
Yeah.
can give back if you are coming from a place of strength. It does nobody any good for you to become penniless in the process of trying to help other people.
Absolutely. So, how do you feel about failing fast?
I'm a fan.
I mean, because that's part of what freaks people out. Like, no, I want to take
Yeah.
longer because I don't want to fail, for
Well, I
example,
think,
or I want to do it perfect.
well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And you're talking to like a recovering, not so recovering perfectionist here. Yeah. Hi, nice to
Hi,
meet you.
nice to meet you.
My name is Maria, and um, so I get it. I get not wanting to throw something out there that's less than my exacting standards. But I will tell you, I took a big risk about kind of right at the beginning of this, which was just bad timing. I was actually trying to roll out a 6-week course. I was trying to do a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And I went ahead and rolled it out anyway, even though all this was going on. And I didn't get enough people in the pilot to run it to be financially viable for me. And so, but I was glad I did it because it failed. But I also had a bunch of people that did sign up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to offer them something else. And I also got valuable feedback from them. And so when I'm ready to roll this out more fully, now I'm armed with more information. So you can look at the failure as an investigative experiment of like, let me try this, see what I learn, see what the response is from other people, and then I can tweak it and improve it the next time out. And, it's not like, I lost all my followers because I had a pilot course I didn't run. It's like, it just won't happen. So, but now, like I said, I'm better armed the next time I want to offer that program out. I have more
Yeah.
information now.
Yeah. Well, it's not all or nothing. This isn't a time
Yeah.
really for black and white thinking. It's
Yes.
really a time to just become comfortable with all the shades of gray in the middle. And then
Yeah.
that's where you learn and get better and, keep trying. So,
Yeah. And I don't think
I love
anyone's going to
that.
hold that against you during this time either, of like, if there was ever a time to fail fast and experiment, now's the time, because you have an excuse of saying, well, there was a pandemic going on. That's why it didn't work. No.
No, I mean, I think it's great. I started doing webinars. I'd never done that before. The first couple
Nice.
were pretty rough because I'd never
Mm-hmm.
done it. And at the same time, I was like, it would have been rough no matter what the
Yeah,
first couple of times. So you might as well just do it, and then that's the only way that you get better. It's
totally.
I encourage people to do video if they haven't before because it's really popular and people are more forgiving right now.
They
So,
are. And you know what's great? I have a really good friend, a colleague of mine, Dia Bondi, who started a project. I might have mentioned her before, called Ask Like an Auctioneer, to help women ask for more and get it. But she did, and she's not shy. She's been on stages. She's an auctioneer. But she was totally stressed about doing video. And so for 30 days on LinkedIn, she did a daily video, just her and her iPhone, and it was a sprint, a strategic sprint to get over herself on video. And it worked.
oh
Like,
yeah.
now she's rocking it. She's doing it. But the first few were a little clunky. She was like figuring out captions. She was figuring out all this stuff. And she's like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to commit to you guys, whether 2 of you are following me or 80, like, I'm going to put a video of value out every day for 30 days to just get over myself.
Yeah. It's a great time to do it.
Yeah.
It's like we're doing this on video right now
Mm-hmm.
and live streaming it, and that's hi. And that's why it helps us get over that. It helps me get over that fear I had of showing up like this and not
Mm-hmm.
just, wearing my typical podcast clothes that involved sweatpants and maybe a baseball hat. So,
I know. I was excited to put makeup on for you today.
and don't we look great? We just look
We're
great.
fabulous. Yeah. No, but I think that's, I mean, and I don't mean to belittle that, but I know it's a very real fear for people, but if you look at it more about, it's not so much a failure, but an experiment.
Hmm.
And people that love you, if you're still offering value, there's so many things that can be forgiven. I've had teleconferences before we were doing more Zooms and whatever, that I was basically, I was muted the entire time, and I talked for 45 minutes, and then I checked back on my email, and all these people were like, there was no sound, what was happening, like, and I've still grown my audience and grown my business and whatever. It's just like things happen, and we just need to
Yeah.
be like, oh, okay, now I know I need to like uncheck that box when I'm doing a telemeeting or teleconference.
Yeah,
I
we
don't even,
learn by doing.
we learn by doing, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have any closing thoughts for businesses that are pivoting?
I think, like we talked about, I just want to make sure people are moving as fast as they can, being creative, um, taking the time that they have now to work on their businesses, whether, like you said, shoring up your content or trying new content or experimenting. Um, and again, remembering that you can still be you and adapt right now and pivot. And you don't have to
Mhm.
change, you don't have to change everything you've built. It can parlay into what you're doing now. And the biggest thing I think is understanding where your customers are right now and speaking to that. That will ensure, no matter what, that you're not tone deaf.
I think that's great. How can people reach out to you?
My website is red-slice.com, and they can reach me there. All my socials are there, but I'm on Instagram at Red Slice Maria, Twitter at Red Slice, Facebook at Red Slice, and they can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'd be happy to answer any questions and even just be a sounding board for people, if they just want to talk about where their brand is going, or what they're afraid of when it comes to pivoting right now. I would love to help people untangle that.
That's so awesome. Take her up on it, guys. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.